Welcome to the opening of the Windsor Heart, the Windsor Heart Project, on this auspicious occasion. This is actually the 10th anniversary to the day of the Supreme Court, the landmark Supreme Court decision. So June 26th, 2013 was the date in a 5-4 decision, U.S. versus Windsor, that the United States finally recognized that it was discriminatory to say that marriage was only between a man and a woman. That was Section 3 of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act. And the case was brought by Edie Windsor, who was a resident of this community. So for 40 years, Edie summered in the town of Southampton. And I don't know if you ever met Edie. I had the pleasure of meeting her. You know, she wasn't a particularly tall woman, but in another sense, she was quite a giant. She took on the United States, knowing what was right, knowing what was just. She brought a case, and 10 years ago, a decade ago today, finally the United States recognized. And that was a turning point in the United States history. It was 2 years later that across the United States, it was finally legal for people to marry who they loved. Edie taught us what we already knew, that love is love, that there's no love that's not legitimate, that no love that's more real or more valid than any other love. And it's amazing that it took the Supreme Court to do that. Like, of course, it seems pretty fundamental, but it's amazing how far we've come. Still a long way to go. There'll be people who talk about Edie today. I want to talk a little bit about what is before us here today. And I'm Jay Schneider, and by the way, town supervisor. And here we are at Town Hall. And a place where people get married pretty much every day. Our clerk, Cindy Schermeyer, is here, and we're both recognized by the town board as officiants, but typically it's Cindy who's conducting marriage ceremonies here. And thank you to Edie Windsor. You can marry who you love right here. You don't have to hide your love. You don't have to pretend it doesn't exist. Edie tried to get married. She actually had a very long engagement to a woman named Thea Spire. It was a 40-year engagement. It wasn't legal. It wasn't legal. So at some point it became legal in Canada. And that's when Edie married Thea. In 1965, I believe, is when they got engaged. And because Edie was working at IBM, and it wasn't really accepted, and she was concerned. When Thea proposed, she proposed not with a wedding ring, but with a lapel pin, a circle of diamonds, a circle of, she wore everywhere. It became iconic. Every picture you see of Edie, you'll see this circle of diamonds, which you'll notice here in the heart pattern. So they got married in Canada like 40 years later. And then a few years after that, Thea sadly passed away. And the United States taxed the inheritance. And normally your spouse, when your spouse dies, you get to inherit without taxation from your spouse. But not in this case, because the IRS said, no, you owe an awful lot of money. It was just wrong. It was discriminatory. If Edie was married to a man, she would have been able to inherit without taxation. But so Edie knew this was wrong. It was just fundamentally unjust. And we're all faced with injustices every day, but not everybody stands up. Not everybody stands up and fights. And Edie did. She took on the United States, took on the United States of America. In the United States versus Windsor, and 10 years ago today won. 10 years ago today won. changed our country, changed our nation. We can still continue to change. After Thea passed away and marriage was legal, Edie married a woman named Judith Kaysen. And they got married legally. And not too many years after that, Edie passed away very sadly in, I think 2017, was it? So Judith, who has become a friend of mine, reached out to me one day and she said, you know, Jay, Edie loved this community. She loved Southampton. She spent so much of her life here. We ought to do something to remember her, to memorialize her. And you know, the first thing I thought was like, okay, do we name a street, a park? You know, that's like what we typically do. And she, you know, Judith's like, I don't know. And I said to Judith, so can I think about this? Like, what would be a fitting tribute to a woman who changed our nation right from our community? And I thought about the fact that people get married, civil weddings here at Town Hall, literally like every day, sometimes even on the weekends, right, Sunday? And because of Edie, you can marry whoever you love, right? So I said to Judith, what if we created a place for people to get married in Edie's honor, where people could marry exactly who they loved, and a platform for conducting wedding ceremonies. And Judith loved the idea. She thought, yeah, that would be a really fitting tribute, because she changed so many lives. She enabled people to marry who they loved. So that was the first step. Then trying to come up with what would be a fitting platform. So, you know, obviously love is love, and having a heart seemed to make sense. Also works out if you're conducting a wedding, bride and groom, groom and groom, bride and bride, whatever it might be. It forms the perfect setting for that. So the idea of having a heart, but then having the heart composed of interlocking hearts. Now that was like the first trick. Like, let's make one heart of many hearts. Like, the symbolism was great, right? And let's have them all like nestled together, so you can, you know, all interlocking. But if you actually draw a simple heart shape and then you try to tile it, it doesn't work. They don't interlock. So I use something in mathematics called the tessellation. And you know, I had to play with it for a while to figure out how to make hearts connect upside down, right side up, next to each other, with as little space as possible. And that's literally what you see before you. You know, I had to do like a proof of concept. So like in my garage, I got some Portland cement and some sand, and I made a mold, and I built like 18 of these things, and it worked. It worked. That's one of the original hearts here. So then, you know, Judith loved the idea. It was actually Sunday who said we should have an area around the heart for people to stand during weddings, because originally it's just going to be the heart. And so first we had the idea of a triangle, and then Judith came up with the idea of doing a circle. And she talked about this diamond ring. You know, obviously diamond rings, you think of weddings, engagements, diamond rings, but a particular diamond ring, the one that Edie wore on her lapel, said that would be great. So we created this circle with these embedded diamonds, and then we were trying to figure out like how many, because we're all into symbolism. Judith and Edie they met in 1965. They got engaged in 1967. So 66, we picked the middle year, and so there's 66 diamonds that are in the band here. Now this is the first phase of this. There's more to come. There's going to be a plaque of some sort that tells the story about Edie Windsor, about the Supreme Court decision. There's going to be plantings all around. You won't see so much of the elementary school here. There'll be gardens, there'll be some benches, there'll be lots of opportunities to contribute here. The hearts, each heart can be engraved. And I know a whole bunch of you have already purchased hearts. So let me explain that a little bit. We wanted to make it very personalized. You could memorialize somebody, you could just make a, say something you want to say. If you get married here, or if you got married to someone you love and you want to be part of the heart, you can order a heart, a personalized heart, and you can do that right through the town's website, which is pretty cool. And all the proceeds from the heart sales are going to the Windsor Clinic, which is part of Stony Brook University. It's located in Hampton Bays. It's an LGBTQ plus clinic. And there's 261 hearts here. So we expect to raise over $200,000 for that clinic through the sale of these hearts. So it's going to go to a really good cause. And I'm personally really excited about this project. I was so happy to work with Judith, to work on the design, work with the town board, who've been incredibly supportive throughout this entire process. I see Councilman Martell is here, and Councilwoman McNamara is here. Councilman Schiavone, who sadly just lost his mother a couple days ago, is not here, and Councilman Bouvier, also for personal reasons, couldn't be here today. We also don't have Judith here today. And Judith has been instrumental to this. And late on Friday, Judith gets a call from the Vice President of the United States that she's coming to honor Judith on the 10th anniversary of the decision. So she gets excused absence, right? I can't compete with that. I mean, that's wonderful. So Kamala Harris is meeting Judith in New York, and that is the only reason why Judith's not here. But Judith does have a statement, and it will be read by a close friend of Judith as part of this ceremony. I want to mention a few other people and some who will come up and share some words. So once we had the idea of how to create this memorial, I wasn't going to make them in my garage, right? That was not going to work. I wasn't going to make 261 hearts. So we had to find a company that could manufacture this, and we found a great partner in a company called Paver Art out in New Jersey that specializes in stone paving platforms. And Mark Oliveto is here. Mark, you just raise your hand. Yes, please. But we've had input from a lot of people in putting this together. The company that actually did the assembly here was called Del Al Concrete. Rick Delamita is the owner of that company, and he was here personally making sure the thing was assembled exactly right. We also work quite a bit with our town engineer, Tom Houghton, who's actually here too. Tom, would you raise your hand in the back? Tom Houghton, and Rick Jimenez. Is Rick here? Nick, rather. Nick Jimenez is was that? Okay, so but Nick was really instrumental. He was here sweeping in the stone sweepings, and he was a part of everything, making sure everything got assembled exactly right. The platform got built, the property got graded. We still have the lawn growing here, so we just seeded it, but planting a seed and growing is what this is all about. This heart will fill. This heart over time will generate a lot of money for the clinic, and it hopefully will spread as well. That seed that Edie planted about love and justice will continue to spread, and we don't go backwards. We continue to move forward. There's still a lot of work ahead to make sure that hate has no place in this country, discrimination has no place, and the arc of moral history is pointing toward justice, as King once said. So with that, first of all, I hope you love this heart platform. I think it's a fitting tribute to Edie Windsor. She was a really remarkable woman. So let's do a round of applause for Edie and the platform. A few more thank yous too before I bring up some speakers. But Jackie O'Neill from my office, and I just saw her a second away in the back, who's been instrumental in coordinating done an incredible job. And Deborah Keller, I thought I saw Deborah a while ago. Deborah is here, right in the back from CRC, and Colleen Jones, who put together the program, and Peter Gaudiello from our building and maintenance facilities team and his staff. Of course, Kristen Dulux in the Parks Department, who also helped. Okay, so next I'd like to bring up to say a few words. Because Judith could not be here, she did provide a statement. And Arden Kessler, who was a very close friend of Edie Windsor, was asked by Judith to share some of those remarks. So let's give a nice welcome to Arden.
Thank you, Jay. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry Judith couldn't be here, but she did produce a statement for me to read. I just want to say that I know Edie since 1975 and really got to begin to know her well in 1976. She was a small woman with a huge heart, and this is just so fitting. She was one of these people who was so all-embracing. It didn't matter who you were, what you were, or where you came from. You were always included if she was around. I remember having joined the East End Gay organization very early. I have a house here in East Hampton, very early on. And the first meeting I ever went to was at Southampton College. It was a very interesting presentation of writers reading their works. And Edie made sure that I was introduced to every single solitary person in the room because it was the first time I had ever been to this group. And that's the kind of person she was. She was all about love. She was all about inclusion. So it is my honor here to be here today to represent Judith and Edie. It's ironic that Jay already described the brooch because that's part of Judith's statement. Edie and Thea got engaged in Southampton here in 1967. This tribute is a tremendous acknowledgement to how much this community means to Edie and Thea and to Judith. In those days, it would have been totally unthinkable for a woman to wear a ring as a lesbian, and it would raise so many questions. Edie had received the highest technical ranking at IBM and was very well known, and Thea was a prominent psychologist at St. Vincent's in Manhattan. And so for them to be in that situation was totally unthinkable. And people used to ask Edie all the time, oh, are you seeing anyone? Aren't you engaged? When are you getting engaged? She was a very attractive, dynamic, personable woman. And so the brooch, as Jay described, was what Edie wore, and she never took it off. Well, when she was obviously dressed, she never took it off. And so this represents that brooch. This represents their long engagement, which was 40 years. And there's a film that was made called A Very Long Engagement. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's kind of interesting because it talks about the beginning of their relationship and how they met and how it evolved. They were later married in Canada in 2007, and that's 40 years after their engagement. One of Edie's favorite sayings was, "Don't postpone joy." And perhaps you've heard it. Edie and Thea said it all the time, and they had the phrase posted in their house all over. Thea had an illness of chronic progressive multiple sclerosis, and so joy wasn't always easy, but that was a theme that they had, to try to create joy every day of their lives, no matter what. And so they constantly kept that in mind. Even the little teeniest things, they tried to find joy. More importantly, the joy had to do with their willingness and the imaginativeness of both of these women, who were both amazing. I knew Thea also. To live their life and to end their relationship and be as passionate as possible. And as their relationship represented the love of women in an era where love between women was certainly repressive and in some ways even puritanical. So in the film, that A Very Long Engagement, there is an image of Edie and Thea always dancing together. And actually the first day they met, and they met at a dance, they ended up dancing for hours and hours and hours till in their stocking feet, until their stockings kind of wore through. And you will see that if you were to watch the film. So the ongoing joy of their dancing together is really an image and a metaphor for what we have here today. On this day, as Jay mentioned, 10 years ago, exactly to the day, DOMA was struck down by the Supreme Court. And I'm going to quote here as, quote, unconstitutional as a deprivation of the equal liberty of persons that is protected by the Fifth Amendment, unquote. And so it became a reality for gay and lesbian couples across the nation, and of course certainly here, and an acknowledgement even in the world today. The gay rights movement cannot be written in history without crediting Edie Windsor for her prodigious determination in fighting for civil rights. This is a testament to how much one person's life contributions over time can make a lasting and powerful transformative difference. And I must say that Edie never thought that she would be suing the United States of America. Speaking of a lasting and powerful transformative difference, and I'm quoting Judith now, this is where I enter the scene. I was never that young girl who dreamt of her wedding day or of having a family. Not only having the legal right to marry, but marry the Edie Windsor. Wow, ask me that question 10 years ago, when marriage was totally illegal. Marriage is a magic word, and it is the magic throughout the world. It has to do with our dignity as human beings, and to be who we are openly, at least here in this community, how wonderful that is. I have this tremendous honor to keep Edie Windsor and Thea Spire continuing legacy in terms of helping the community we love so dearly, not to mention our lifetimes of grassroots altruism, creating the thriving community we have today. There is always more work to do. There are over 500 pieces of anti-LGBTQ legislation around the country, dozens of places where the pride flag by Gilbert Baker is banned, and each heart here, interconnected, is a testament how one person can claim their stake in life, create a catalyst for change, and transform its course for the greater good of mankind. There is never a wrong time for justice, for equality, or for love, and no effort, action, or person too small to effectuate change. Thank you very much, and thank you to Jay Schneiderman, Jackie, Paver Art, Dr. Eric Leller, and I'm sure he's going to be speaking. He's from the Edie Windsor Healthcare Center. He's wonderful. The town of Southampton, and Stony Brook Southampton Hospital. Thank you very much. And it's my honor. Thank you.
Arden mentioned Gilbert Baker, too, the creator of the Pride Flag, who has purchased a heart here as well. So we don't have that one made yet. That's going to be installed. And Andy Cohen, some of you may know Andy Cohen, TV personality. He has purchased a heart. We have it's really simple to purchase a heart. Just go to our website and be part of this if you'd like to do that. Of course, the heart sales, as I mentioned, we have a partner here. This is generating money for the LGBTQ clinic, the Windsor Clinic, which is part of Stony Brook University, and the medical director, who was just mentioned, Dr. Eric, help me? Lella, thank you. I just think of him as, oh, there he is. Dr. Lella is here, so I'd like to bring up Dr. Lella.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Eric Lella. I'm the medical director and primary care physician at the Edie Windsor Healthcare Center. We're a part of Stony Brook Southampton Hospital. I just wanted to speak to all of you today to let you know about the important work that we've been able to do at the clinic thus far and the work that we'll be able to do in the future with the proceeds from this amazing little monument that we have here for our community. When we took on Edie Windsor's name and moved to our new location in Hampton Bays in 2021, we were able to expand from being an HIV care center, HIV prevention and HIV care with mental health services, to include primary care. That's where I came in. We also have osteopathic manipulation services. We've expanded our psychology, so we have talk therapy expanded services, expanded services with psychiatry. We have a nutritionist on staff, and just recently we've been awarded a grant through Pride for Youth to be able to bring on an additional social worker who will be able to assist with case management for all of our patients. One of the amazing things that we're able to accomplish at the center is any patient who comes in, we're able to see and often get them insurance if they don't have proper care or proper coverage. Just last summer, we started another arm of our clinic. We now have a sexual health services clinic where, much like somebody who perhaps needs sexual health services on a short-term basis may go to Planned Parenthood, we're now able to see any patient who's not established with our clinic to provide services and have that fully covered if they don't have the means to do that. Last summer, we also headed really the only Mpox, or monkeypox as it was formerly known, vaccination campaign that was on the East End, east of Fire Island. We gave over 2,200 shots last summer, and now this summer we've been given permission by the state to be a standalone vaccine distribution center. So now any patient can come in same day, and we can give that Mpox vaccine on demand. Let's see. I want to call out Chrissy Witzke, who's our site administrator and has been so important in all of these expanded services. One of the other things that we've been able to do is to initiate training for all of the staff at Southampton Hospital. To date, we've had well over 100 or 200, well over 200 of our employees complete multiple trainings for LGBTQ plus healthcare considerations. So as Jay said, all of the proceeds from this project, and individuals can feel free to donate more than the cost of the bricks, go to our wellness fund and go to the operations of our small community clinic with all of these important services. So happy Pride, everyone. Thank you for being here, and we really appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Lella. Still Eric to me, but so we have some amazing partners in government, and partners who really care about the same issues, about social justice and equal rights, and we're really blessed to have great elected leaders. And I've been in elected office now 24 years in various capacities, and I've had the great honor of working with an assemblyman who's been remarkable on so many issues, whether it's on the financial front, whether it's on the environment preservation front, or on social justice issues, and that's Assemblyman Fred Thiel, and he's here. I'd like to bring him up.
Thank you so much, and it's such a pleasure to be here for this ceremony today and to continue to celebrate Pride Month. I want to start by thanking Supervisor Schneiderman and the members of the town board for, first of all, just undertaking this project to honor Edie Windsor, and for placing it in such a prominent place here at Town Hall, where couples forever will be able to come and get married. It was interesting to hear Jay talk a little bit about how it all came together and how they got all the hearts. the interlocking hearts to fit together. To me, it sounded like a calculus problem to me. And Jay's a better man than I, because when I was a freshman in college, I couldn't decide math or government, math or government. So I took a year of calculus, and government it was. So you're a better man than I am, Jay, for that. It's just such a pleasure here to be able to be here to honor Edie on the 10th anniversary of the Supreme Court decision. It was an honor and a privilege to know Edie. I used to look forward to those backyard barbecues every year, and you know, it was it was a chance to celebrate. It was kind of the beginning of the summer season also, and it was always just such a great event. And to know Edie and to see what a leader she was and what she was accomplishing across the country, and to know that she was ours here in the town of Southampton. She cared about us, and we cared about her. And you know, as a lawyer, you know, to see somebody's name in the caption of a United States Supreme Court case, something I'll probably never see in my life. Impressive. And a winning court case overturning the Defense of Marriage Act. But what was important about that court decision wasn't that just it was a victory. It wasn't just that it changed the law. It wasn't just that it changed people's minds. It changed people's hearts. Another reason why the heart is such a great symbol here today. You know, I was pleased to be a part, as a member of the state legislature, to be a co-sponsor of the Marriage Equality Act, and had the honor to be able to vote for that bill. And it was amazing how quickly you just saw public opinion change it seemed like overnight, something that doesn't happen with public opinion very often. But, you know, we went from just it being difficult to just getting anti-discrimination statutes passed to this legislation in New York State, and then this court decision. And now, overwhelmingly, people support and believe in marriage equality. And I think, you know, the last thing we should just remember here as we see this heart, and as we pass it each and every day, maybe on our trips to town hall, is one of the things that I've learned in government and politics, and that, you know, when you have a victory, it's sweet, and savor that victory. But no victories in this area, no victories are permanent, whether it's the environment, human rights. No victories are permanent. Things change. The Supreme Court changes. And you see that rights aren't being expanded, they're being contracted. We need to be vigilant and let people who come here, hopefully for happy occasions like marriage, but let them be reminded that Edie won a victory for them. They're the ones who are going to need to keep that victory. And this will be an inspiration, I know, to generations to make sure that we never lose that victory. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you for speaking from the heart, both literally and figuratively. Fred always enjoys a good pun. So we also are joined by our county legislator, Bridget Fleming, who's also been a great champion of civil rights, equal rights, and social justice. I'd like to bring Bridget up.
Thank you, Jay, and congratulations on the fruition of your creative inspiration here. Jay's creative juices are never ending. Congratulations, it's beautiful. And thank you all for allowing me to say a quick hello here on this very momentous occasion. You know, I just want to think for a moment of what it must have been to be Edie Windsor as an individual, a woman who grew up in the 40s and 50s, who rose through the ranks of corporate America as a lesbian. It's really something now that, you know, Fred mentions that, you know, there's overwhelming support for marriage equality now. It's hard to imagine the level of individual personal courage that it must have taken for someone like Edie to simply refuse to let injustice stand. And that's what she did throughout her life. but certainly working with Roberta Kaplan, who was the lead counsel on this case, sitting day in and day out, going through deposition testimony. It was a long process getting to the Supreme Court, very costly. There were a lot of folks who were involved in funding that and getting it through the court system. But it was really the beating heart of Edie Windsor, who just refused to say no to injustice. And I have to say, this is an amazing thing, because when I was on the town board, was when DOMA was overturned with this incredible landmark decision. And I have to give great credit to our town clerk, Cindy Schurmeyer, who immediately started performing weddings here. And when I was on the town board, we faced protests. Yes, absolutely, clap for Cindy. We faced protests, and as a matter of fact, we were sued because there was a sign that said this is a bias-free zone. It was sort of modeled after the drug-free zones in the schools, but it was found to be, it was challenged on First Amendment grounds, and it was found to be unconstitutional because you're not allowed to say that everyone who comes here can express their opinion. And so this group that came regularly to protest the marriages that Cindy was courageously and fearlessly continuing with despite the protests actually sued us, and they got the sign removed. But the day that sign was removed, the day that the town board passed the legislation to remove the sign, we authorized a new sign, which stands there today that says, basically, if you come in those doors, you are guaranteed to be treated with respect and not to be discriminated against. So what a remarkable gift that Cindy has given to us as well, to continue with courage and fearlessness to follow the law and to say, I don't care who you are, you have a right to get married here in Southampton Town Hall. And what a celebration this is. It's a long journey from the days of those protests. So congratulations, Cindy, and thank you for carrying the torch. I'm so grateful to Edie Windsor, but I want to just end by echoing what Fred said. I hope that we can all just take a moment from time to time to recognize the level of individual courage it took for Edie Windsor, a woman raised in the 40s and 50s, to continue to fight as she did. Because as Fred pointed out, these civil rights are still under attack. And yes, now marriage equality is accepted, and it took off like a wildfire across the country, but LGBTQ rights are not, constantly under attack. So it's up to each of us to look at Edie Windsor as a model, not as someone who is now an icon, not as a gorgeous smiling picture, or even the author of this beautiful heart, but in fact, just another individual who took the time and the courage and to step into a place where she saw that justice was not being served and put her own personal self on the line. That's why this has changed. That's why the undoing of DOMA changed the world, because an individual person, a tiny little person who was always gorgeous and impeccably dressed, would not stand for injustice. We're all called upon to do that again, and I hope we can do it in Edie's honor. Congratulations, Jay, and to the whole town board.
Bridget mentioned our great clerk, Cindy Schurmeyer. Cindy is here. I'd like to invite Cindy up, who will be using this platform more than anyone else to allow people to perform their marriage ceremony. So, Cindy?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cindy Schurmeyer, the Southampton Town Clerk. Is this good? Okay. I don't want to have to hold it. Okay. I have to say I'm grateful to be here today, and it was interesting hearing Bridget. Thank you, Bridget, for remembering how difficult those times actually were. I had the pleasure of meeting Edie Windsor at a movie premiere here in Southampton, and my friend Jimmy Mack came over to me, grabbed my hand, and said, "You must come with me. You must meet Edie." And Edie, I went over. Edie had a big smile, and as we were introduced, she was so lovely as she engaged in conversation, wanting to know more about me, And I was like, oh my, this woman who's, you know, such a powerhouse. She was a small in stature, lovely woman, but she was an amazing powerhouse that took on the United States in a court case to pave the way towards recognizing same-sex marriage. She was a force to be reckoned with and had accomplished so much in her life that changed the world as we knew it, and she wanted to know more about me. So she was a very special lady, and I think that was part of her success, was that she was so interested in other people and their welfare that she continued on. As the same-sex marriage legislation went into effect in New York in advance of the United States decision, it was both an exciting and rather scary time here. I was receiving daily phone calls about being removed from office, being impeached, threats if I issued a license, let alone perform a ceremony. We had protesting outside every day leading up to the legislation becoming effective. And the first day, on the day of my first ceremony, the protesters were outside. They had foiled for my calendar, which I refused to give them. And it was July, it was 100 and something degrees outside, and they had come very early in the morning hoping not to miss the people who were coming to get married. And by 10 o'clock, they by divine intervention from my perspective, they dispersed. And within 10 minutes, the couple that was coming in to get married with their 75 guests arrived in full force, and we all headed up to the town boardroom to perform the first marriage ceremony here in the town of Southampton. And thank you. And I have to say, I'm very excited that I heard from the couple a few days back that they were going to join us here today. And I think it's a wonderful celebration. Frederick and Alan, would you please just come up?
Thank you. And I will say something.
Yes. And if you would like to say something, please do.
Just briefly, it's so interesting to see when we were here, there was just so many people here, but not friendly people. They were all here protesting. And that's changed quite a bit. And one thing I want to say is, Frederick and I did this 12 years ago, not really as a sign, we didn't need to do it as a sign of our love. We'd been together already 40 years, it's 50 years we're together. We really did it to make a statement, number one, to stand up and be counted, but also, we had no role models growing up. And for us, the thought that maybe some 10-year-old kid that lived in Southampton could say, wow, people can get married here and can be accepted, that was why we did it. And we're happy to have done it and thrilled to see the progress, but there's still a lot more to do.
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. And I did just want to say that it was amazing because the majority of the couples that first came in to see me had been together, and the stories were 59 years, 50 years, 49, 50, 45. It was literally people who had made long-time commitments to one another in their lifetimes, and they finally were able to come in and celebrate their love and get married. So I was very proud to be a part of that, and I'm so grateful that we've come so far, because that was July 27th, July 26th, 2011, when I performed that first ceremony. So Bridget was here as a council person. She knows it was a little chaotic. I had detectives here. Our police department was looking out for us just in case, because we all had very legitimate concerns at that time. And now today, we do not. No one's concerned about what my schedule is and who's coming and going. So things have changed quite a bit. And thank you, Jay, for allowing me to be part of this wonderful ceremony to honor Edie Windsor.
Thank you, Sunday. And you guys can renew your vows here if you want to anytime. It's open. We're open for business here. We do have other elected officials I'm going to introduce in a moment, but in terms of putting this platform together, I mentioned earlier that I worked with a company out of New Jersey called Paver Art. And so to go from a concept to the actual platform, we really needed a great partner. And I found that in Paver Art. And Mark Olivito, who was the owner of that company, drove all the way from New Jersey to come here to be at this opening. I'd like to allow Mark to step up and say a word or two.
Thank you, Jay. It really is an honor to be here. Maybe I can say a few words, take you inside the world of a small business. Paver Art's a company that's been around for 20 years. We had the honor, Jay approached Paver Art, Jay, about 2 years ago, with this idea, and we work with municipalities across the country. But I do have to say, this project hit a little differently. From the diamond brooch, the outer band, the engraving, I never heard of the word tessellation until Jay explained to me what that is. And clearly I knew that Jay's a creative individual, and we talked about the article that you wrote 2 years ago with the graphical illustrations, and it really, it was a different level of thought, a different level of planning. The question that I had in my mind as a small business owner, we're only a team of 10 people. The question that I had is, this project is different. A number of people have said, could you picture your last name, United States versus your last name? It kind of brought chills up to my, if I saw Olivito versus the United States of America, I had goosebumps thinking about that. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing Edie, but thank God for YouTube, because I think I watched every YouTube video about her history, her story. And what it quickly, my thought was, how do I take those 10 people within Paver Art and tell that story? How do I sit down at dinner with my son and show those videos and say, we're gonna go on a road trip and we're gonna learn a little bit about this? The world does need a little bit more kindness. I've always thought that good businesses or great businesses have a combination, I've said this for probably 2 decades, heart and hustle. They know how to get things done, but they have heart. They know how to do right by people, work with their community. They do things a little differently. So it was ironic when Jay came with this idea of tessellating hearts. And my thought was, we're gonna tell this story within our 4 walls at Paver Art. When I saw Judith's engraved paver, I love you more. I mean, I gotta tell you, walking through our little shop and seeing don't postpone joy, I love you more. It can bring a tear to your eye if you've got half of a heart, right? So the question really early on became, how do we lead by example? How can we tell this story to our community on social media with our employees and just open up that dialogue? The world really does need more kindness, and it needs more heart. So thank you, Jay, for allowing us to be a part of this wonderful occasion.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark, for coming. And Mark brought his son here, too. I think it's important for the next generation also to learn the lessons that Edie Windsor taught us. And when this was shipped here by Mark's company, it came with exhaustive directions of how to put it together, because there was tiny little pieces. And of course, the hearts themselves, you know, come to a point, and they're made of cement, and it's pretty fragile. So I'm happy to report that we had no broken hearts in this process. So it went pretty darn well. So, all right, we have a number of other elected officials. Also, I want to point out too that Sunday mentioned the role of the police department in the past, and we're blessed today to also have an incredible police department. Our police chief is here in the back, James Kiernan. Thank you for coming, Jim. So this has been supported throughout by the town board. All 5 of us. There's never been a question. Everybody believed in this project. Nobody disputed doing it here at Town Hall. Laying out the initial funding for it, putting all the pieces together, all the purchase orders. It's been unified. It's not like the Supreme Court 5-4 decision. This was 5-0 all the way through. I'd like, I mentioned both Councilman Martell and Councilwoman McNamara are here. I'd like to bring Councilwoman McNamara up to say a few words.
To say the project was never in doubt, that's a bit of a stretch, because 2 weeks ago there was a giant tree here, and I really didn't think this was going to happen until I saw the bricks come. It was basically assembled by numbers, and Jay got down on his hands and knees and put my office is up there, and I watched him each brick and no, that shouldn't go there and that needs to go over there, and take it apart and put it back together. So there was a lot of love that went into the assemblage of this, down to Jackie trying to find out whose heart went where in what order and making sure everything was perfect for today. So there was a lot of work that went in today. But as for Edie Windsor, Judy asked me to speak today, and it was through this project that I really learned Edie's story and how we all take things for granted, and the fact that that decision, I don't know of anybody that I know that you could ask wasn't affected by that decision or knows somebody that was affected by that decision, either a friend or a family member. And it's something that we can't take for granted, and it's something that we have to continue to remind ourselves of, that it wasn't always a right, and it was something that was fought for, and it has meaning. And love is love, and we go on with that and we go forward, but we have to remember the people that got us there. And with anything that we go through in life, there are people that fought to get us where we are. And, thankfully my children, to speak about somebody who's gay, it's just another person to them. But that wasn't always the case. And so we have to keep that in our hearts always and remember, how we got to where we got. And I thank Edie for having the courage to see that through. So thank you all.
Thank you, Cindy. I'd like to bring up, walking down the aisle here, Councilman Rick Martell again. The whole board has been behind this project 100%.
Thank you, Jay. So thank you, everyone. I don't usually public speak. I usually don't jump up here, but I have two very big thank yous to do today. I didn't know Edie, but I knew her decision. My sister, who had a partner for over 30 years and could not get married here, we had feared that she would have to go to Canada or go out of state to get married, and she would have to do that alone, without her family, without her friends. So when the decision came down, there was such joy in her family. And to be honest, even though the family got together, she got married in a waiting room in Justice Court, it was a beautiful day. We got to have a party and celebrate their lives together. They're still together with two wonderful young ladies, young kids. I hope Edie's looking down. I hope she hears my thank you to her, because it was such a big impact in my family, especially to my sister. And you know what? It changed my life along the way, and I really appreciate everything that was done. The second thank you goes to Jay, because he let me be involved in this. My wife and I bought a brick here, and it simply says, live, laugh, love, because I know it's a corny poster. We've all heard it somewhere. It's probably on a plaque at a gift shop somewhere. But it truly means to live your life the way you want to. Don't answer to anybody else. Just live what you believe. Laugh along the way, because honestly, I missed a lot of that. I worked so hard. I really needed to laugh more. Jay makes me laugh more. But, you have to enjoy your life. It's very short. And lastly, when you find that person, embrace them, love them, keep them, and do what you have to do to just stay true to each other. So it enabled my sister to do that, enabled everyone around her and the hundreds of thousands of people that Edie had an impact on. So I really appreciate this. I love it. I hope everybody gets to use it. I wish my sister had had this and not the waiting room at Justice Court. So God bless Edie, and God bless everyone here. Thank you.
There's a lot of love in this community. A lot of people who give, a lot of people give of their time, and some people give of their own personal wealth. We're fortunate to have here today one of the great philanthropists in the Southampton community. We have Jean Shafferoff here, who's done so much for our hospital, so much for the clinic. And Jean, I'd love to invite you up to say a word or two.
And thank you, Jay Schneiderman, for all you do for Southampton. Hello, I'm Jean Shafferoff, and New York State Assemblywoman Rebecca Seawright and Judith Case in Windsor asked me to say a few words. And we are here to celebrate an incredible woman. I myself and my husband, we are LGBTQ allies, which means we are supporters of the LGBTQ community. And this is very important to us. I recently want to tell a little story. I was in the Mideast, in a country where the LGBTQ community is not recognized, and people go to prison for being part of that community. So as a world, we have a long way to go still. So the fact that Southampton, New York, has created this heart for the LGBTQ community and is doing so much is very, very important. We serve as role models. I am a board member of Southampton Hospital Association, and I want to acknowledge Stony Brook Southampton Hospital for all they do for this community and the surrounding communities. I also want to thank the police force, which is pretty incredible. Thank you very much for making our community very safe. And I want to thank all of our people in public office and all of the supporters today. My husband and I will be buying a heart. I'm just waiting for a new credit card to come. It's coming today. That's why I'm in Southampton, to be here, to say hello to all of you, and then for a little event tonight, and to get that credit card and to buy my heart. So on that note, I want to thank everybody in this community for all you do for Southampton. We are blessed to live here. We're blessed to live in this country. We have so many freedoms that so many people around the globe do not have, and every day is a gift, and that means we have a responsibility not just to Southampton, but to our world and to those that have less than us. A little bit about me, 2 seconds. I serve on 8 charity boards. Many are global. I wrote a book on philanthropy, Successful Philanthropy, How to Make a Life by What You Give. And I host a little TV show on LTV East Hampton, all about philanthropy. But today we celebrate Edie Windsor and all that you do for our community. And thank you all for being such an integral part of Southampton.
Well, clearly, Edie touched a lot of people's lives. Whether you knew her or didn't, she opened that door for people to celebrate love. Actually, my heart out there says, love is love. Love is love. There's no love that is not a legitimate love. And that's crazy that for so many years in this country, we looked upon some love as being valid and others as invalid. And one of our local ambassadors of love, who was a life certainly touched by Edie, not just by her example and her history, but also a personal friend. We've got Jimmy Mack here. I'd like to bring Jimmy Mack up.
Thank you, Jay, for all of this and doing this. It's an incredible endeavor. And I come here not just as a friend of Edie Windsor, but also a native of Southampton. I grew up in West Hampton Beach with Sunday, and I'm also a volunteer EMT and have been for nearly 20 years. And Edie used to refer to me as her personal EMT whenever we went to an event, and my husband Brian as her personal security guard. And if Brian was here, you could see why. He's 6'2" and 220 pounds of muscle. So, and she was such a gem. But this all has so much more meaning to me, because not only did Brian and I buy the first heart, and we used an Edie Windsor, Edie and Thea phrase, keep it hot on our heart, but I also just turned 66, and there are 66 diamonds in here. And that is in a large part because of the Rose Walton HIV/AIDS Care Center. I was diagnosed with HIV back in 1987. And that later became the Edie Windsor Center. And those people have kept me alive and enabled me to see the 66 years. So a big shout out to the Edie Windsor Healthcare Center. Dr. Lella, I love you. You're the best. And your whole staff, Jennifer Jolie. But I would just like to tell a very quick story, because Sunday and I were talking before about how when she met Sunday, she immediately asked Sunday, about Sunday. And it was right towards the very end of Edie's life. And she was in the city and had asked me to bring some stuff from Southampton because she was getting out of the hospital. So I went to her house, and she was coming home from the hospital in a car service. And Judith said to me, why don't you go downstairs and meet her? And I said, oh, great, I'd love to. And she goes, but you have to promise me one thing, Jimmy. Don't cry. Because Judith knew what a big crier was. Promise me you're not going to cry. when you see her. I said, I promise I won't. And Edie got out of the car, and she was like rail thin. And I started to cry. I couldn't help it. And she took my face in her two hands like this. She brought me face to face with her, and she looked me in the eye, and she says, Jimmy Mack, don't you cry for me. I have led the most extraordinary life. And one of the greatest gifts I ever had in this fabulous life was meeting you and your wonderful husband, Brian. That's Edie Windsor. It was never about Edie. It was all about you and what she could do to make you smile. She was an amazing woman. So thank you for that, and I'm honored to be here. And thanks again, Jay.
All right, so we're going to close. There's so many people I'd like to point out. There is a representative from Congressman Lolota's office. Mr. Ganley is here. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate that. All of the department heads, quite a number of town department heads and staff who are here today. Jean had mentioned Southampton Hospital a few times. We have Robert Ross here from Southampton Hospital. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for all that you've done. And Robert served here at Town Hall for many years too, as the deputy for was a supervisor at Heaney, right? Skip Heaney. So in closing, you know what Edie did was remarkable, and it really teaches us how one person with a strong sense of what is right and what is just, if they have the courage, can change the world. They really can change the world. And for each of us, we all have that capacity to follow in Edie's lead and stand up for what is right and do our best to make our society in that vision of social justice and love. And so this platform will be here. Come and visit. Buy a heart. You can get them through the town's website. It will grow. It will help support this incredible clinic, the Windsor Clinic, and keep up the fight. We have more work to do. And thank you all for coming.
So how did you hear about this, and what do you think about having your own heart?
Well, we initially read about it, I think it was in a Newsday article a couple of weeks ago, and I called the Southampton Town Hall that day, and I said, how do we get one of those hearts? And then when we heard there was only 260, I said, there is a check in the mail tomorrow, and we are in the next group of the engraving, so it's something that we felt very strongly about.
What is it going to say?
It's going to have our names and our wedding date, which was November 7th of 2015, when the situation broke that federally we can be married in one state and move to the next. In June of that year, we booked our wedding, and we were married November 7th that year.
So what does it mean to you, do you think, to the whole gay and lesbian population, that they can marry, they can do this freely, and they can also fight to have their rights in perpetuity? You can inherit their estate thanks to Edie Windsor. Do you think this is a fitting tribute?
Oh, it's an absolutely fitting tribute. We knew of her, certainly, because she was a little bit of a dynamo, and it's just about fairness. You know, we're not looking for anything above and beyond. We both have brothers and sisters who were married in various states, and over the course of their lives, they've moved to various states, and that was something that we waited for. We had been together for 30 years, but we didn't want to go to Massachusetts to get married. We didn't want to go elsewhere until we had the same rights as anybody else. So that was why we waited, and it was great, and we lived very happily because of it. But what she did for us, she didn't have to do any of that. She was a very wealthy woman. She was established in her career. She did for others, and that's why we feel so strongly about her and for her.
So now you have a little bit of something that will be lasting for generations. What does this feel like?
I think what I said is that it was important for us to make a statement to the younger generation that this is possible. You can get married. We didn't have role models, and not that we would be a role model, but what's happened since is important for all generations to come, I think.
And do you feel that you're going to have to fight to keep this right, to preserve it?
Absolutely, absolutely, because it's so fragile. As Jay Shannon say, civil rights, it's a constant battle. And for me, we got married just to acknowledge our love for each other, but having a marriage license meant that we had to be counted. It was no longer dismissible, or they're a gay couple, or they're part of the 10% of the American population that's supposedly to be gay. Now I have a paper to prove that I'm gay, and then I got married.
And now you have a heart forever.
That's true. That's true. That's absolutely true.
I think it's important to understand that there's still not a day that goes by in some shape or form there's some insidious remark made somewhere in our country, our town, in our lives, that is not necessarily gay friendly. And we live that all the time.
Yeah, just being called a sissy, you know. And unfortunately what happens is that a lot of derogatory terms for gay men is feminizing the man. And so this is why the fight. Women's liberation and gay liberation go hand in hand. And there's no question about it, because, you know, yes, I am a sissy. I call myself a sissy, but don't call me a sissy, because in fact, what does that mean? It means that what? I'm less masculine than the next man. I'm more feminine than the next man. So that's a little bit of an ambiguity that bothers me the most.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck to you.